Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Martin, and I wanted to share my experience with you with mind body syndrome and mind body symptoms. Now, I'm making this video in the hopes that I can help some of you with your recovery and your symptoms and help you identify what's going on and help you move towards recovery by taking concrete steps and utilizing resources that I have found helpful. I'm doing this partly because when I was recovering, I know I gained a ton of energy and motivation for recovery from watching these videos of people that had recovered and had had very severe symptoms. And so I just want to pass on that, pass on that contribution to this community, and hopefully at least one or two people see this video and find it helpful and find it contributing positively to their recovery. Now, my experience is relevant for anyone that concerns themselves with chronic fatigue, chronic fatigue syndrome, long COVID, burnout, MCAS, adrenal fatigue, post-viral fatigue, post-exertional malaise type symptoms, and any other sort of chronic mind-body symptoms that do not have a identified structural cause, like migraines or other type of headaches that are mind-body induced. Now, I'm going to structure this video in three main parts. So first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and my experience, and then I'm going to move on to my recovery and the resources that I found useful to recover. And then I'm going to talk about mind, body, and chronic illness in general, and just a few thoughts. Right. So I'm going to go forward and tell you guys a little bit about my story with mind body syndrome in the hopes that it will be relatable to some of you. You can see some of your own symptoms, your own experience, and see that there is light on the other side. So, my onset took place while I was working full-time job. I was very stressed out, and I basically got ill a couple of times, and basically just never really recovered from my very, very intense flu symptoms. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going on. I took a couple of weeks off. Didn't help. Actually got worse. And I went back to work part time. Didn't work out. Kept having very, very debilitating fatigue. There was a time when I was literally spending all day in bed, except the 4 hours that I would be working, just so that I would have the energy to complete those 4 hours. And I would be ordering food every day. I was skipping meals if I didn't have the time or the energy to make them or to go to the store. It was not a sustainable way of living, and I had no idea what was going on at the time. So I was thinking burnout. I have burnout symptoms, or I have long COVID that I can't recover from, whatever it is. And it was extremely difficult, mainly because I didn't know what was going on, and no one seemed to be able to help me, right? Doctors were like, "Oh, take some time off work, de-stress." But it wasn't, there was no clear-cut explanation for what I was experiencing. And at this time, I hadn't yet stumbled upon all the YouTube resources that would later give me some of the answers that I was looking for. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about me, about my personality, about how I was before getting sick, and how some of my personality traits may have contributed to me getting this kind of condition. So I was extremely perfectionistic, right? I had to get everything right. I was very, very harsh on myself. There's a big self-critic component to this. And I think a lot of these traits come up in people that end up getting sick with mind body illnesses because these personality traits, which are essentially coping mechanisms, put a tremendous amount of stress on your body. They increase your allostatic load. So let's say other people are working with, 100 free points of things that they can allocate towards quote unquote stressors or stimulation. You are working, let's say, with 80 or with 60 or 70 because you already have 30 allocated to this self-critic in your head that's berating you every second of the day, or the stress that everything has to go right because you're in this fight or flight state. So that's the way I like to look at it. And that already is something I identified right at the time and actually beforehand as something that was somehow different about the way that I engage with the world compared to a lot of other people. So, just to give you the quick rundown, and then we can go into the happier part, into the recovery, and into some of the resources that you guys can use to recover. I spent many months with debilitating symptoms, essentially housebound for many, many months, about 6 months of what was really the worst of it. The rest was recovery, but still not very good. and symptoms ranging between extreme fatigue, MCAS type symptoms, hives, food sensitivities, flu-like symptoms, the whole works. It doesn't even really matter what symptoms you have. I think if you have one of these conditions, you know after doing a bit of research that you're in this bucket and you have these neurological symptoms. So I was completely lost as to what was going on for a little bit. But then I started to do research online. In fact, I was frantically doing research online, which made it kind of a double-edged sword because I was reading all these fear-inducing negative messages online from people who had not been able to recover after years and years of having these conditions. And this absolutely does make you worse, guys. So it really matters the kind of information that you consume and the extent to which you believe these horror stories makes the world of difference. So unfortunately, as many people are in this state, you are very susceptible to fear mongering and to thinking of the worst case scenario and to being extremely afraid. And that kind of just jacks up your amygdala, jacks up your fear response, your fight or flight response even more, right? Which puts you into a very precarious situation because you get into this spiral, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the recovery section. But essentially, it makes you worse, doesn't make you get better. But having said that, I do want to say that I eventually found resources online that were, I want to say, vital to my recovery. I want to say extremely, extremely helpful. And that's the likes of ANS Rewire on YouTube. I think Dan Neufer runs that, or no, Neufer. I don't know how to pronounce that. Raylan Eagle's channel. I think most of you guys, if you've come across this video, probably know about her. Dr. David Mickle, many, many other practitioners, and eventually I came across a Gupta program, which is the one that I ended up signing up to and was a significant part of my recovery. It wasn't the whole, it wasn't, I didn't use it the whole way, but it was a very important part of the recovery for me, primarily because it helped me understand what was going on. And once I understood what was going on, the stakes dropped dramatically and considerably in my brain and in my psyche because I sort of understood that what was going on, as terrible as it was not the end of the world. It was not structural damage. It was not going to be like that forever. It didn't need to be like that forever. And that kind of gave me the freedom and psychological safety to do the work and to do the retraining and to recover. Now, let's move on to the fun part. So, recovery. How did I recover, and how do I recommend other people to approach their recovery? So, for me, recovery comes in two parts from these conditions. The first part, I think, is the physiological part of basically just turning down your fear danger response. And that, I think the best book for that and the best resource for that is Alan Gordon's The Way Out. It's a terrific book. It's on pain reprocessing therapy, so it's actually made mainly for back pain and for chronic pain patients, but principle applies perfectly well to pretty much every chronic condition that's mind-body based. And also CFS Recovery on YouTube. What's his name? Miguel Batista. He has a very similar approach that also clearly works very well. The essence of it is reacting well to symptoms, creating what Alan Gordon calls corrective experiences. So exposing yourself to triggers or things that trigger you and basically neutralizing them by responding well and having signals of safety, all these sorts of things. So I think this is the first part of recovery, and it's maybe the smaller part actually. I think maybe this is 20-30% of people's symptoms, but I think this is a vital part to unlock the second layer of recovery, which I think you can only really access if you're somewhat regulated. So I think this first part of responding well to symptoms and taking away this fear symptom spiral, which I think I'm going to put a graphic of on the screen, hopefully from the Gupta program. He's got a terrific graphic for this. I don't know if that's copyrighted. Maybe I can't do that, but I'll put a graphic up there of the way that your negative reactions to symptoms actually perpetuates them, right? And if you can break that cycle, you break that loop, you're already halfway there. And you're setting yourself up for doing the work that's going to lead to a long-lasting recovery. Now, I think the second part of recovery is the emotional side and doing the quote unquote emotional work. Because I think there's really only two things that cause chronic symptoms. I think the first thing is fear, which is fear of symptoms predominantly, and that's addressed with the first part. And the second thing I think is a root cause for most people, which is repressed emotions. And that might sound a little bit crazy, a little bit whack, a little bit far-fetched for people that are going through some debilitating physiological symptoms, physical symptoms that seem to be very real, and they absolutely are. But I believe, in my experience and in the research that I've done, that a vast majority of these conditions have the root cause as repressed emotions. And the resources I would recommend to tackle this part of recovery, what I used was Howard Schuberner's Unlearn Your Pain book, which I think is terrific. It's a workbook. It basically has exercises in it where you can delve deep into your subconscious and try to get out what's in there. But Nicole Sachs also has a book on this deeper emotional work that's terrific. Um, it really doesn't matter what resource you use. Dr. David Mickel's program is also kind of centered around this notion of not listening to your subconscious or your mind body or your body consciousness, I think he calls it. Um, but yeah, so for me, these are the two parts of the recovery. I'm going to list resources for both down below. I think you want to start with the first half, but you want to get to the second half. So I want to end off the video by talking a little bit about what is a chronic illness? What is a mind-body illness? Why do people get it? Why do some people get it? Some people don't get it? And again, I think it really comes down to the root cause that we just discussed. And I think the symptoms that we're getting are essentially conduits for emotions, which are conduits or a representation of information from our subconscious for us to act on. And I think the reason that they become so loud and so persistent is because we're not listening to them, right? So people that get these illnesses tend to be living their lives in an inauthentic way or in a way that's not aligned with their true values or self or purpose or whatever it is inside of them that tells them that this isn't right for me or this is right for me. We all have something like that in us. And if we're forcing ourselves into situations which do not serve us, or are acting in ways which are not aligned with the way that we truly are, or the way that our gut is telling us to act, then we eventually get sick. And I know for a lot of you, especially those of you that are more at the beginning of your recovery, or even just having symptoms in general, mild symptoms, this seems kind of far-fetched. It's really different from the traditional biomedical paradigm where physical symptoms are a result of pathology, essentially. They're a result of something being chemically or biologically misaligned in the body. But unfortunately, that's not how our bodies actually work. Our bodies are a biopsychosocial organism that respond to our environment, respond to our social environment, and most importantly, respond to their emotions. Like our emotions basically communicate to our body and to our brain what hormones to activate, what cells to kill, what cells to grow, what kind of what kind of physiology we need for our environment. So to discount emotions and to discount the biopsychosocial account of health is a terrible mistake. And it is a mistake that has had a lot of negative consequences for people going through these mind-body conditions because they go to their doctor and their doctors are not able to help them because they do not have the knowledge, they do not have the medical paradigm through which to look at these conditions in a meaningful way. So all that to say, I think that mind-body illness is a side effect of living an inauthentic life. It is not the main problem. It is a manifestation of you not listening to um, to your gut feelings, essentially, to listening to your true self and living a life inauthentically. And it's really more about the how, I think, even than the what. So I think a lot of the time people hear that and they're like, well, does that mean I have to quit my job or I have to, I have to break up with my girlfriend or whatever? And there's definitely cases I think where that makes sense. But I think it's really more about how you're living. And yeah, there might be cases where when you change the how and you change the way that you interact with these people, the relationships are naturally going to disintegrate. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And as challenging as that may actually end up being. But it could also be that you are in the right job, but you're still not showing up in the world in a way that serves you. And I think because of this, illness is a side effect of this misalignment and of low self-esteem and of low love for yourself, not enough love for yourself, and not standing up for yourself in a way that your body needs you to. Um, and I think that's important for us to consider. Now, as a final point, I'm not saying that positivity is going to heal you, that you're suddenly going to start a gratitude journal, you're going to be happy, you're going to put on a smile, even though everything is fucking shit, and you're suddenly going to be healthy. That's not how it works. I know that's not how it works. Now, it's great to be grateful, but only for things that you are truly grateful for. So it's great to focus on things that are good in your life. That's important. It's great to make time for that. But I think more than feeling those good things, which is important if they're true and authentic, what's going to help you heal is actually feeling your negative emotions and not suppressing your anger, not suppressing your rage, not suppressing your guilt, your disgust, your shame, all these negative emotions that for some reason or another you may have suppressed. Feeling those emotions and acting on them and doing whatever it takes to build a true and authentic life for you. I believe that that is what is going to heal you from mind body conditions. Um, Not thinking positively. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this has been at least a little bit helpful for some of you. I hope some people see this video. I'm just trying to do my part as someone who took a tremendous amount of benefit from watching these videos of people that had recovered um, during my journey. I was really there's times where I was just in bed for days and weeks, and I was just watching these videos on a repeat, and they gave me so much hope. And I can tell you, there's definitely light on the other side of the tunnel, and you just got to do the work. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's tremendously gratifying once you're through the other side. So I wish you guys all the best. I wish you guys a great healing journey and a terrific life afterwards. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'd love to talk to some of you. Thank you guys very much. Speak to you soon.